Hi everyone. I hope that you're all doing well. It's been a long time since I've spoken to all of you. I've been really busy, but this video is a book review about a book that I recently purchased from Half Price Books, and the title of this book is Old Time Remedies for Modern Ailments, and it was written by Reverend Hannah Kroger. Now, it's interesting how I stumbled upon this book. I actually didn't know this book existed. I was looking up something else and kind of fell into Hannah Kroger's series of books. So, Hannah Kroger, I did not know anything about her, but I was familiar with her company, Kroger Herbs, because they sell supplements, and I've seen a couple of their supplements. There was the Wormwood Kit, which is a parasite cleanse kit, and it has black walnut, whole clove, and a bottle called the Wormwood Combination, which has wormwood, black walnut, whole clove, cassia, and male fern. There was another bottle, a supplement called Circuflow, which is for like circulation. It had like hawthorn and tobacco, I think. I don't really know. There's another called Female Balance, which is for female hormonal blend, and a couple of other supplements. But the supplement that made me go to the website and research it was a supplement called Rascal. And I was just looking at the name one day. I was like, what type of name is this? Rascal? This sounds like, is this a parasite? Like, this sounds very old lady. So I went to the site, and that's how I found out about Hannah Kroger. And just reading the biography of her fascinated me, and I found out that she had written at least 20 books. So I put the books in my cart for thrift books, and the next day I went to Half Price Books just to hang out, and I found 2 of her books, the ones in my cart, on the shelf. So I didn't even have to wait to get them. I just got them there. I was pretty happy about that. So right now, before I review the book, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Hannah, the author, Hannah Kroger. I went to her website, and they have an about page. Now, she has since passed. She died May 7th, 1998. So she's been gone a little while, but they called her the grandmother of health. And she attended nursing school at the University of Freiburg in Germany. She assisted at a large hospital in Dresden, which primarily used natural healing methods. It was in hospital that she began to discover many amazing ways to restore health using herbs. I think she also started her own retreat center at one point. As a mother and nurse, Hannah embodied resourcefulness. In the early 1950s, Hannah moved from Germany to the United States and settled in Boulder, Colorado. She quickly became disappointed in the lack of nutritious foods, leading her to start one of the first health food stores in the country, right in the heart of Boulder. From her small shop, Hannah shared her mastery of the restorative powers of the European and American herbs. And so because she was making it all in her shop, or in her house, it became too big, and she had to basically open up her store. But when I was reading her book, there was it was so interesting how much information she had in such a tiny book. It was clear that this lady had read a lot about traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, Ayurvedic medicine. Well, I don't know Ayurvedic, but traditional Chinese medicine, yes. European medicine and all of these different things, but she would describe it in layman's terms. So sometimes she would alternate between clinical terms and layman's terms, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was very easy to understand, especially the examples she used, and the tone of her voice, and the writing, very kind, very mom wanting to take care of you. I really like her style of writing. So I'm going to go through this book and share with you some of the chapters that stood out to me. This book was published in 1971, and the copy I have is the 12th printing from 2006. There was one chapter that talked about the kidneys. It's page 63. It's chapter 7. Hush. Stomach. She said that the Druids, the ancient Druids, considered the kidneys of animals sacred, and these were not eaten, but buried under large oak trees. The bean-shaped organ must have impressed these people, or perhaps they had an inner knowing about these valuable organs. In any case, these old-timers had respect for kidneys and their functions, and every year they secured a large variety of herbs by drying and storing them for winter use. These herbs were shave grass and chamomile, and as you know, shave grass is horsetail. Birch leaves and white nettles were dried too, and in the fall they gathered rose hips. She also talked about that in the Middle Ages, the kidney sufferers would stuff their mattresses with male or female fern. Now, I didn't know that there was, I don't know why I didn't realize that there was a female fern. I've just heard of male fern, but it didn't dawn on me that there was a female fern. I'm like, well, if they're calling one male, of course there might be a female somewhere, so. But it says male fern was used when the right kidney was not functioning, and female fern was used when the left kidney was not functioning. I was like, say what? I just didn't know. I didn't know. It's just amazing how people find out certain things. It says, going back to our old-timers who made a separation of male and female remedies for the kidneys, I stumbled onto a paper of a modern scientist, a man whose knowledge and findings will be recognized 40 to 60 years from now. He is a man whose foresight is so tremendous that I sit in awe and greatest admiration at his feet to listen to every word of wisdom. But she left him unnamed. He didn't want to be named. The man told me that the right kidney takes care of the waist below the middle of the body, which is yang in nature, and the left kidney takes care of the waste material of the upper body. So if one is yang, then the other must be yin, like yin, Y-I-N. The difficulties in the proper remedies pertaining to kidney dysfunction seem to be our misunderstanding of the proper functioning of such. And also, like, how they decided the ones that the women and men should use. I guess, hold on. Okay. How did people formerly find out when the kidneys were not functioning right? They boiled 1 cup of the first morning's urine and added 1 teaspoon of vinegar. So you pee in a cup, you boil it, and then you add 1 teaspoon of vinegar. The urine would coagulate when albumin was present, and our old-timers took care of it with herbs. For albumin, they took motherwort. When the urine showed blood, they took shepherd's purse or marshmallow root. This latter was also used for burning urine. And she has a couple of herbs in there that help, like uva ursi, or that's how you pronounce it, and other things. She also included recipes in her books as well. Then there was another chapter on heavy metals. It says, are heavy metals a health hazard? It is said that the fall of Rome was nothing more than the accumulated lead poisoning in their citizens. They used to carry their water in lead pipes and lead containers, and the accumulated lead destroyed the nation. Our water pipes are safe, but how about the air we breathe? Are the cities and crowded highways safe? On windless days, you see the car exhaust lingering over highways. When lead is taken into the lungs, it is more likely to be in suspension in the fluids of the body, like the lymphatic, blood, and gland fluids. So it says lead, arsenic, copper, and other metal poisoning. One of the ways that you can fix that, she says, is 1 gallon of cranberry juice, 3 tablespoons whole cloves, 2 teaspoons ground cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon cream of tartar. She also says that the symptoms would be tired blood, irritability, listlessness. There's also like no appetite, food is tasteless. I feel like I've met people that have had heavy metal poisoning, or at least accumulation of toxins from their jobs. Like if they were, let's say, a welder. If a person is a welder, they need something for their eyes because they're dealing with like heat and light and just the heat. They need something for their lungs, and they need something for their ears, and something for their nerves. If it's like a firefighter, they need something for their adrenals, their heart, because they're in high intensity situations. Like if they're going into a fire that's like, it's a lot of stress. They need something for their brain. They need something for their lungs. If it's somebody who works with like automobiles, they also need something for their lungs, their eyes. It really depends on the job. Sometimes your job can poison you. I've met people who've worked in factories or warehouses for years and years and years, and they would leave. And then all of a sudden, they just get a rash out of nowhere, and they don't know where it came from. Every single time. I've seen it at least four times. One of the ways you can detoxify metals, there's chlorella that can bind to heavy metals. Activated charcoal can take out of the body, but you don't want to take activated charcoal too long because it absorbs everything and it can interact with your medication. But like something like chlorella, a spirulina, cilantro, those can help with heavy metals in the body. It says boil the the cranberry juice one. Boil the cloves and 1 quart cranberry juice for 20 minutes. Strain and add 2 teaspoons ground cinnamon. Stir and add it to the rest of the cranberry juice. Now add 1 teaspoon cream of tartar. Stir. Drink 5 ounces 3 times daily. For children, 3 ounces 3 times daily for 12 to 15 days. Then do it once a week. In case lead or other heavy metals are lodged in the joints and it pains you, the following recipe will help. It comes from the Romans. Take a soft piece of leather and spread a pulp of comfrey root on it. Apply this to the suffering joints every night. A wonderful herbal formula for taking out lead residue is 6 ounces basil, 1 ounce rosemary, 1 ounce hyssop, and 1 ounce boneset. And you can make a tea and drink 1 cup 3 times daily. Like, she just has so many recipes in each chapter. Copper poisoned people have a burning sensation in throat and tonsils, and some have it throughout their whole system. The copper poisoned individual wants to open his hands all the time. I have seen people opening and closing their hands even during conversation, and it detracts the listener greatly from spoken words. I always thought this was a strange behavior, a psychosomatic imbalance somewhere, until I studied Roman behavior where this was mentioned several times. Romans used copper kettles for cooking utensils and intoxicated themselves with it. When they bathed in sulfur springs, they felt the results at once. Since sulfur neutralizes the copper to some extent, it stands to reason that these people felt so very inclined to build baths, even in countries outside their own, wherever a sulfur spring showed up. Zinc is an antidote to copper. And that's crazy because when I was reading about the copper, I was like, okay, they need zinc. Because if you have too much of one, it can deplete the other. So if you ever take zinc, take copper with it, unless you have too much copper, then just take the zinc, and vice versa. Like if you have too much zinc, then take some copper. They balance each other out. The only, like some supplements will have zinc and copper together. You can get zinc from, I think, pumpkin seeds, and I can't remember. I want to say Brazilian nuts, but I'm really not sure. But one brand that has zinc and copper together is Solaray, Solaray. I've seen that was together, but yeah. Then she has a page where it's like the heavy metal reference and the antidote to it. Yeah, it's really nice. Who else? What else? Then she has a chapter on magnetism, which it was actually lengthier than I thought. When it said she was a daughter of missionaries, I felt like the book was going to be extremely religious, you know. I thought it would just be like extremely Bible based, even though she does mention the Bible in here. She mentions all these different systems of medicine. There was, it's like me reading something by Dr. Christopher. Dr. Christopher was a Mormon, so he's always going to bring like Mormonism and God into his writing. But her, it wasn't overwhelmingly religious, even though she grew up with missionaries. It says, science teaches us that different bodies can occupy the same space if these bodies are on a different vibrational level. For example, our surrounding atmosphere is filled with light waves, sound waves, heat waves, odic force, electricity, magnetism, gases, water vapor, and many unsolved mysteries. But all these do not collide, explode, or interfere with each other because they operate on different vibrational levels and rates. The same is true in human body. As far as we know, we have 5 bodies. So she's talking about like the different bodies, like the astral body, the physical body, the mental body. She says churches preoccupy themselves with the understanding and teaching of the spiritual body, and chiropractors are trained to take care of the coarse electromotive body of the human machine. There is one force occupying the same space as our physical body. This has no name as yet, so we call it Gauss magnetism. It is a finer electromotive vibration, and it has its seat in the lymphatic system of our body. There in the lymphatics, it can be contacted by pressure or with the Chinese method of acupuncture. The finest of the 5 bodies as we know it bridges the gap between the physical, as our allopathic doctors know, and the spiritual as the churches teach and know it. It is the body which carries universal electric force through our system, and we all know that without these universal high vibrational forces, life would not be possible. It says, up to now, the existence of Gauss magnetics was denied because no channel has ever been found on a cadaver. She also mentioned in the Bible talks about contact healing in several passages, and I often wondered what this is all about. I felt that there was a deep understanding and a deeper meaning in these passages, and it had to do with laying on of hands. However, when laying on of hands is done in a scientific manner, by knowing the passages of Gauss magnetics, by contacting important points of the system, the laying on of hands becomes an art of grace and knowledge. Every physician can use the old-time method of the Bible to the greatest benefit of its clientele. I barely see, I'm not even in church, but last time I went to church, I've only seen maybe one laying on of hands. Yeah. I feel, honestly, as far as healing, I think people could go to early church, like first century churches, and get healed, but you can't go to modern day churches and get healed. You're not going to get anything. You're not even going to get peace. Oh, I don't know. There was something she said in this chapter about how, okay, here it is. There is no doubt that with intense studies, feeling, and intuition, these people have developed a healing system par excellence which works for the Eastern races. So she's talking about the Chinese. Unfortunately, the puncturing of the skin with different needles, gold and silver and others, to different depths of the tissues does not have the same desired quick healing result in people of the Western Hemisphere. I often wondered why and asked and observed until one Japanese physician told me that the Westerners have a slightly different physiological makeup, and the finer bodies cannot be reached by acupuncture in the same satisfactory way as in the Easterner. That means we have to get busy and find our own way to contact the channels of Gauss magnetics. And I'm wondering, when they say Westerners, do they mean like just people on the Western side of the world? Or is like Westerners another term for like white people or another race of people? She never really answers that in the book, so maybe it could be the hemispheres. It's like the East, the West. Well, see, I'm just pointing everywhere. East, West. But this is the one part of this chapter that really stood out to me, because sometimes I'll be reading something and I'm like, why did that work so fast for this group and not this group? It's just different modalities. Like, I don't know. Then she has a chapter about the fasting. And she talks about the humors. This chapter was really interesting to me, how she described the fluids. She said the human body consists of more than 9/10 fluid. Some of the fluid is bound in the cells and is a substance of the cell. Some of the fluid, as lymph fluid, blood fluid, and juices of the hormone cycle, are outside of the cells and bathe the cells, so to speak, from the outside. According to the different tasks of the humors, which means fluids, they have different appearances and different colors: light red, dark red, transparent, milky, etc. Because of the fluidic and moving state of these different humors, it stands to reason that they interchange and exchange with each other, and that they also permeate every cell and every organ of the living body. There is no doubt that different organs finally break down when a continuous stream of unhealthy, undernourished, and impoverished fluids surrounds and penetrates them. Nutrients being preserved with chemicals will stay preserved to a large percentage in the body. Fasting is not starvation. Starvation is a slow process of painful dying while the body consumes itself. With starvation, you become a meat eater by eating, digesting, and consuming your own body. She talks about the different fasts that mankind has created. The Turks fast on delicious watermelons once a year, the Bulgarians on yogurt. The Romans drank the mineral spring water. These old-time fasts are not scientific and are undertaken more or less because of tradition, just as grandmother gave sulfur and molasses every spring to every member of the family. If needed or not, everyone got his spoonful of molasses twice a day for a week or more. We have become scientific and specific when it comes to fasting. It must be purposeful and meaningful. That's true. Like sometimes I'll meet older people, and what's really crazy is they'll all have the same thing that their mom gave them. So the number 2 or 3 things that I've seen: cod liver oil. They'd be like, my mama gave me cod liver oil every day and I wasn't sick at all. Or castor oil. Yeah, we had castor oil that kept us regular. Or Father John's, which I think had castor oil in it. And some would be like apple cider vinegar and garlic. But those are like mostly older people. They'll say like apple cider vinegar. But I never heard it as like a child remedy. The child remedies I've heard them say their moms gave them were castor oil and cod liver oil to keep them regular and to keep them from being sick. And occasionally like elderberry syrup and all of that. But it's true, fasting does need to be meaningful, because I feel like if you're just doing it just to do it, you're not going to make it through this fast. When you have a meaning to it, it gives you the strength to go through the fast. If that makes any sense. There was this other book I have called Fasting for Spiritual something. And it's basically 9 different biblical fasts. A fast on water alone, as it is done and advocated 30 years ago, was safe and effective. Not so today. In our fatty tissue, all of us have accumulated DDT and other matter. A water fast loosens these foreign accumulations, but instead of throwing them through the liver into the intestine, they are driven into the bone marrow. This is the last place you want poisons to accumulate. Dr. Buchinger, a man who fasted thousands of people with great success, uses the following method: fresh pressed juices. This means freshly pressed fruits or vegetables. The juice must be diluted with water, half and half, or you may drink 1 glass juice and 1 glass water at the same time. When you do it yourself, never do it longer than 4 days at a time, and only once or twice a month if needed. Never use fruit and vegetable juices at the same time. You may alternate them. Always take 1 or 2 enemas a day if undertaking a juice fast. One requisite is to take it easy during a fast. If you can afford it, stay only half days on your job or take the first part of your vacation for this purpose. Secondly, don't feel sorry for yourself. Your food will taste better afterwards and you will feel so good just because you conquered the carnal man in you. She also talks occasionally in this book about the flower children, and the flower children were essentially hippies. But she doesn't speak badly about them. I like how she talks about the hippies. Like she thinks of them as it's an extension of her children, and she'll see something going on with them, and she shares recipes that they gave to her and talk about the problems that they had. One chapter is called Our Precious Youth. There is Mike, the son, a minister. His grandfather was a minister too. The overly tall boy, aged 21, is thin and emaciated, so weak his hands are shaking. He is bent slightly forward, his hair dangling in long blonde strands, barefooted beads hanging around his neck, the clothes unkempt, patched. We call them the far outs, the hippies, the flower children. There is nothing flowery about to them. This boy needs help in the worst way. No, that's not funny, but I just like. There's Patricia, Pat they call her. Her long skirts made from old drapery are worn out looking. Her hair is dry and straggly, and those beautiful eyes are so sad, so sad. She is the daughter of a wealthy real estate man. What happened to the boy whose father is a famous surgeon? Listlessly he sits in college, carelessly dressed, the hair made up in a ponytail. He does not care what the professor tells the class. His thoughts are scattered, his concentration span is but half a minute long. He starts a sentence with one idea just to finish it up with the opposite statement. What ties them together? One thing they have in common. Their hands are cold and chilly. They all have great spells of depression, no strength, no endurance. A great restlessness makes them travel from place to place, from state to state. The mental restlessness and inability to concentrate makes them prey to many mental and spiritual influences, teachings, and dogmas. She also talks about the one of the boys said, the only time we feel halfway decent is when we take pot or marijuana. Boy, I answered, you are 21 years old. Aren't you feeling young and buoyant and strong and happy as we did when we were that age? He shook his head. No, Hannah, I don't. I feel cold and uncertain. I belong to no one. I feel cheated, depressed to the point of unaliving. I am hungry but cannot eat. I am tired but cannot sleep. I cannot think anymore. I do not know what to do. Another said, we do not belong to society anymore. We do not belong to any church since we found that God is in the inner and not the outer. We have no church or minister that will understand the immanent experience of God in opposition to the transcendental God experience of the Orthodox churches makes the gap between the old and the young. And so she understands this, what they're going through. And she also mentions like they have this restlessness, they have this chilly hands, sleeplessness, and they start doing like weed. And she says the use of weed can easily lead to LSD. Now, I'm not saying that's true. For some people, it does lead to that. For some people, it's just like an addiction. Like, I know they say you can't get addicted to weed. I think you can. Not everybody is addicted to weed, but I think there are a lot of people that are, because they cannot function without it. They don't know how to calm themselves down without it. Sometimes I can tell who smokes a lot of weed just by looking at it's weird. I can look at your face and see if you're a heavy drinker or a heavy smoker. If you're a heavy drinker, what's weird is your face is bloated. Your eyes, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like bags, but it's like just a lot of fluid in your eye. Like your eyes are bulging, your facial structure starts to change. I don't know. But the ones that really smoke a lot, I look at their eyes, their skin looks kind of dehydrated from the inside. It's like you look dry, but it's not on the outside. It's just like dryness showing from the inside of you. Lip color. The ones that I've seen that it's really, really bad have a cognitive delay in thought. Like they can't form a sentence. It's just delay. But I don't know if she's taking into account that, like, if this was 1971, didn't we just come through like the whole civil rights movement and all these wars? Like, of course these children are depressed. There's just a lot going on. There's a whole lot of societal shifts. Like, what you thought it was is not. It's really an identity crisis. But then I see that with the children now. The children I used to teach that are in their 20s now. And I'm like, something's wrong with these. I'm not saying something's wrong with these children, but that's what I said at the time. And I still feel that way because these children also had children and something's going on with these children. When I read that, I literally think of the children now. They're just like, where do I go? There's nothing stable. What is the point? There's really nothing to live for. Everything is sad. Nothing is real. They have a point. Nothing really is real. You took away their childhood. You essentially you basically destroyed teenhood. Like, you made them go from baby to 20 years old. Whatever happened to adolescence? Whatever happened to being a teen? And then you're this. All the steps that you had transitioning towards adulthood, they took at least 2 or 3 of them away. And you took actual tangible things away, toys and imagination, and nothing is real. So of course you're going to hang on to some type of crutch to function in your life. So these children were doing weed, but they were doing it for the wrong reasons. I think maybe if they had drank it as a tea, it wouldn't have been as bad. I feel, me personally, I've never smoked before, but I feel, and I don't know if I'm right, I'm not saying I am, I feel like when you smoke, it's just adding more heat to your body. Like, your body has its own temperature that it likes to be at. And when you're adding more heat, that probably causes inflammation. But if you're drinking it as a tea, maybe it's more potent. It probably gets in your body faster, or maybe it's more medicinal. I don't know. I'm more like, if you're going to take it as a tea. Or drink it as a tea. To get in your body faster. But don't do too much. You don't want to poison yourself. She had a journal. No. She had these 2 children that were on this detox from LSD and weed. And she said, chaparral will take the residue of LSD out of your system. So once you decide to quit that devil stuff, take chaparral so you will have no recurrences of hallucinations. Chaparral is an herb from the desert. It cleanses the liver when taken in small doses for 3 weeks. 6 tablets of chaparral a day for a period of 10 days cleans out LSD residue. I only knew one person that took LSD. It was my young ex. My young ex that I don't talk to anymore. He would smoke. He would drink, but not a lot. He would vape. And he did LSD at one point. And I remember telling him, hey, You need to stop all of that before you mess up your brain. You're gonna injure yourself. He's like, oh, you're just in Kiara, blah, 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 blah. So fast forward years later, he's not even 30 yet. And I think he may be suffering from some type of schizophrenia. Like he actually lost his mind. So if you're doing something that's like psychoactive, you just either wean off of it or stop it or do something that nourishes your brain and your nervous system, because even if you think you're not addicted, you could be addicted and not know. You could see it as a crutch. Can you operate without this thing in your life? Can you function without having to do this thing to get through the day? You have to just ask yourselves these questions. It's nothing ashamed if you're addicted to something. You just have to admit that you're addicted. It's not saying you're weak. Everybody has an addiction of some sort. It might not even be like some people's religion is an addiction. You just have to admit that there is a problem, and it's nothing against you as a person. It's just something you're experiencing right now, and you want to be better. Let's see. But she has so many recipes in here. I'm just kind of overwhelmed a little bit. But I just wanted to, there's another chapter that I had to research more on, and it was called Simian Virus 40. She said that it was the Salk vaccine, the most extensive experiment on humans ever performed, and it became the biggest disaster ever known to mankind. She said the biggest tragedy that ever hit America started in the mid-50s. It came like a shooting star, brilliant and beautiful. It raced from coast to coast, touching almost every home. Then it disappeared. But unlike a shooting star, it left behind a trail of sorrow, despair, mental and physical illnesses, unaliving, financial ruin for many families, confusion, and the hippie problem. And she talks about like where it came from. It was little rhesus apes were shipped to America. They were injected with the polio virus, and the eggs from the pus that was extracted became the Salk vaccine, which was injected into children's bloodstreams. She said the ape virus has a scientific name of simian virus 40, in short, SIM40, and sometimes SV40. SIM40 is harmless to apes, but when entered into the bloodstream of our children, the disaster started. The big business, the huge propaganda machine, the praise and the advertisement subdued the cries of the parents whose children were suddenly hit with fear, lack of cleanliness, anguish, failing physical health, failing mental health, depression, laziness, hatred towards parents and teachers, low-grade temperature, listlessness, and meningitis. I just felt like that was kind of extreme. I'm not saying that the vaccine didn't do all of that. I'm just saying, like, this is just a lot for one thing. I think that might have been one thing, but I don't think that's exactly what caused all of these, because it's the mid-50s. You're dealing with segregation, racism, sexism, like war. Like, it just came out of a freaking war. Like, there's a lot going on outside of that. And then you're starting to come into the whole TV, dinner, microwave cooking era, Tupperware party, plastics stuff. So I don't think it was just one thing, that one shot. I think it was just part of a stream of things. especially when it's like failing mental health. Like you're being advertised, be the housewife, be smiley, cook everything, always have your lipstick on, go to work. Like, I think the propaganda was too rigid for people, and that caused a lot of depression. But she says that the formula for this would be 1/2 pound basil, 1/2 pound kelp, and 1 pound milk sugar. I've never heard of milk sugar. Grind up the herbs, mix together, take 1 teaspoon 4 times daily in water, juice, or yogurt for at least 6 weeks. I have noticed that some people have a light fever for a few days. Most people feel better right away for the first time in years. Then at the back of the book, she has remedies, just old-time remedies for different things, arthritis and calcium herbs like chamomile, coltsfoot, horsetail, plantain, watercress, willow, liver herbs. But I think this was a very good book. I was actually legitimately surprised how much information she stuck into these little tiny chapters. The chapters were maybe 2 or 3 pages long, and she said a whole mouthful. I felt like I had to study everything that she mentioned in one chapter for a week. So I'm very excited to get more of her books. She introduced me to things and concepts that I never really heard of before, so I'm glad I learned something new. But yeah, Hannah Kroger, Old Time Remedies for Modern Ailments. But that is all that I have for you today, everyone. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.